Robbie.
That was pretty good.
Do you want to do a podcast
Do you
with
want
me?
a balloon?
How about a balloon?
I'll take one. You can't bite my arm, though.
Well, welcome back to a special edition episode of The Upside Fans. I'm Will.
I'm Rob.
And we are going to be doing a movie review discussion. What's the name of it again?
How great is it?
There we go. In which we will be talking about the recently released. We're very cutting edge on this one. As we always are with these.
It came out last weekend.
And we are going to be talking about the movie It, the 2017. I guess it's technically a remake, but this is like the first feature-length theatrical film.
Second adaptation of the Stephen King novel.
And so this movie I was excited for ever since, because this had an interesting production we were talking about, because director Cary Fukunaga was doing it with Eyebrows Kid from the Maze Runner. What's his name? He was going to be the clown.
Yeah. Oh shit, I know his name. Will Poulter.
Yeah. And so it was going to be him, and then there were issues with that. So then they switched out the directors with what I want to say his name is
Andy Muschietti. Muschietti. Andy Muschietti.
Andy Spaghetti.
Andy.
Spaghetti. Director Andy Muschietti. And so the trailer came out for this a long time ago, and then I think both of you and I were like, "Oh, this looks pretty good."
We're like, "Oh, hello, Georgie and D."
And I don't know about you, but
I'll stick my dick in a sewer for that movie.
That's
what they
weird.
do in this, right?
No,
that's what the movie's about.
Dicks
the
in
lesson
sewers.
is like, don't put your dick in a sewer.
But yeah, so the trailer came out for it, and I don't want to speak for you, but for me, I was always excited about seeing this movie. But it was really the week leading up to this movie, and maybe I got caught up in the buzz a little bit.
That's where you made the decision that you were going to see this in a theater.
Yeah.
With a bag full of popcorn sitting on your lap.
Yeah.
With people around you, with the big screen, in the dark. You were in.
Yeah.
Like Flint.
I was in it.
You were in it.
I was knee deep in it.
It was in you.
But I was getting caught up in the hype a little bit on this one. I'm like, oh, I actually can't wait to see this. Like, I'm very much looking forward to it. What about you? Like the lead up to it, just generally excited.
I was super in. Like the trailers, I was excited before. Even like what? So there were some people when we just saw some still photographs of the clown.
Mm-hmm.
Some people were making fun of it. But I never like to judge a picture by a picture, especially a still image when you're
never
supposed to
judge
watch.
a picture by its clown.
Never judge a picture by its picture.
Yeah.
But like
so
when
a picture is worth 1,000 clowns.
The trailer came out, I'm like, that looks fucking rad.
Yeah, dude. What is the movie actually about?
It's about a group of kids in a town.
Derry, Maine. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Almost all Stephen King's stories take place in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have been going missing. The parents don't seem to be helping, and the kids kind of uncover the secret of what's been happening to all these disappearing children.
Yeah. Our main group of characters are the losers.
Yeah. We should say that we're gonna do non-spoilers first, and we'll warn you before we get into spoilers.
Yeah, definitely.
We didn't say that before, so
no,
we didn't do our jobs. But yeah, it's the Losers Club. There's like 100 kids. I don't know how many.
I think it's like seven, 6 or 7
kids.
of them. Yeah.
They're severely bullied, which is another aspect of the thing. The parents aren't very helpful with things, which is one of my favorite tropes in horror.
Yeah, I actually haven't thought about that.
Movies,
which I'll talk about in this review.
And then they all notice that like some scary shit's been happening.
Yeah.
There's and a certain clown seems to be connected to all of them.
Pennywise.
Yeah.
The dancing clown.
And Pennywise.
And you got, like you say, like your kids are getting bullied because you have the girl, the black one, the Jewish one, the glasses one,
the fat
one, and the leader.
With a stutter.
Yeah.
The stutterer.
Well, let's get into the It 2017. Right. Rob, how great is it?
You know what? It's pretty great. I really liked it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had a really good time with it. Now, we had a little bit of discussion off mic about how scary it was.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like this isn't a movie that I found to be particularly scary. Like I thought that there's other movies out there that craft their scares a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, there was lots of people jumping and screaming in the theater I was in.
Mm-hmm.
It was having a good old time. I don't think it scared Natalie as much as she wanted it to. Like she was a little disappointed by that. But overall, like the parts of the movie that matter to me, which is like the friendship with the kids stuff,
Yeah.
and the story of them coming into the dealing with their fears in order to grow up. Like I loved all that shit.
I'm starting to really believe in the thought, at least for myself, that obviously you can't lean on this, but if you really like bring it all home at the end successfully, like if you end strong with, especially thematically, then it works. And this was definitely one of those movies that the way it ends was very powerful and effective for me. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I'm not sure that I'm as raving about it as everybody. Like, it didn't blow me away, but I think it's a super solid horror movie that's well deserving of the critical and financial success that it has been getting at this point. It's like a certified blockbuster at this point.
The scares were good. Had the scares been phenomenal, I feel like I would be raving about it. But overall, like that's like I loved everything else about it. So
I do think for me there were a few kind of very, very small pacing and story choices, and like maybe some, and I'm not like a big harsh critic of tropes, but there may have been one or two tropes that it kind of got into. Like I'm like, oh, I'm not hot about that, but those are more just like little things that kept it from like really blowing my mind away. But at the end of the day, it's such a well-crafted movie. It's a lot of fun. The characters are great. And it has a very, to me, fascinating ending for me, given not only the movie itself but the legacy of what the novel in the series is and this book.
Do you want to wait till we get into spoilers to talk about that?
And ultimately, like, to me, like you say, in regard to the scares, I didn't find it as scary, like raw scary. I mean, we'll talk about like what that means, but its atmosphere was very good, and the craft of the atmosphere I thought was very good. It plays a little bit more, like I say, like a fun horror movie, and that doesn't diminish like the effectiveness of the atmosphere, but it's more of like like we talked about, like a blockbuster horror movie where you come in and like you get like into it and you're excited about it.
It's more approachable than something like we were talking about, like The Witch. Like The Witch is a great horror movie, but it's not as open and inviting to your average moviegoer. Where this is sort of like
you can have fun with this.
This is approachable horror that anybody can go and watch and enjoy.
Yeah, and I think that it definitely, one of the things that always fascinated me about the original, it focuses on this group of kids. Yeah. And I think it really captures.
Right. Have I ever mentioned on this podcast how I don't like the Goonies?
No, you haven't.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm indifferent about them.
I don't. I don't like the Goonies. I think because like I don't have the nostalgia attached to it because I didn't see it till I was an adult. But and so like I like the kid part of it, but like overall, like the adventure that they're on feels like an amusement park ride to me, and so like it's like I just don't care about it. Where it's like this movie had the stuff that really worked for me in the Goonies, but attached to like an adventure that I could like get behind.
Right. Yeah.
So I appreciate.
I can agree.
That.
I can agree with that. I mean, the kids were great. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I have any more non-spoiler things. Oh, I guess we should talk about the star of this entire enterprise, what you're really coming for, and that is the
balloons.
No, I was going to say the creepy pharmacist.
Oh yeah.
No, Pennywise, the dancing clown, played originally. Famously played by Tim Curry, now this time played by Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah.
The Skarsgård that you unfortunately probably forgot about, but you will remember after you see this movie.
There's 8 Skarsgård kids.
Yeah, are there?
4 of them are acting.
There's Stellan.
Stellan's the
dad. Yeah.
So he's not one of the 8 kids.
Oh, I'm just talking about Skarsgårds in general.
Yeah.
There's a
Alexander Skarsgård played Tarzan.
Yeah.
And Eric the Vampire in True Blood. That's where he's probably most known from. And he was just in that Big Little Lies show on HBO.
Gotcha. All right, but Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård is playing Pennywise here.
What'd you think of Bill Skarsgård?
I thought he was great.
Yeah.
he did a lot of he had a lot of cool choices in this. I like the way that Pennywise ran like a lunatic.
I have a praise with an asterisk for him.
Yeah,
I think Bill Skarsgård was great as Pennywise. I thought he was super great. That being said, I think there may have been a little too many scenes of. I love the scenes where he got to play Pennywise as like a character. And I think that at times the movie kind of leans a little bit onto like just stand there and be a creepy clown, which he's good
that's
at.
Fine. That's part of being a monster.
Yeah, that's part of it.
It's just standing there and being creepy.
But I think the
stuff he did with his eyes were great.
Yeah,
I loved all the eyes.
Apparently that's like a real thing he can do.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, I mean they like when it rolls in the back of his head. Yeah, he's not doing that. But there's scenes in this movie where his eyes look in two different directions or like are a little bit askew, and they were gonna do that with special effects, but apparently like he could do that himself.
Must have given him the biggest headache, especially he's in all that makeup and shit. Dude must have ended the day with like the worst headaches in the world.
But I will say, like, so that was my only thing, and that's more of a nitpick than anything.
My only thing is I didn't like his last line.
That was weird. I didn't like that. But yeah, I think that there are a few more scenes that I wish that kind of like he got to like perform a little bit more. But again, a nitpick. But that being said, like the scenes. Because, you can have somebody look like a creepy clown, and it could work, but I think the scenes where he had to come and be like Pennywise the character, like I thought he absolutely nailed it.
How about we get into the spoiler section so then we can go in a little deeper on him and then go through all the characters like we normally do.
Okay, so...
there's some stuff I want to say about Pennywise, but I want to spoil it.
Can I say this one thing?
Yeah.
Because this is a non-spoiler. I do think ultimately what he did, from my little knowledge of the previous with Tim Curry, that this Pennywise definitely brought in... the monster of Pennywise, like that he's like a creature, and more so than just being kind of like a clown avatar.
Right. Well, you see the creature thing in Tim Curry's performance.
Yeah.
But it's a lot like it only ever really shows right before he's about to do something like eat something.
Yeah.
Where in this, like, Bill Skarsgård lets the monster slide out a little earlier at times.
Yeah, I agree.
Which I think is a great subtle act. Like I thought he did a great job.
Yeah, this may be this honestly may be a movie that I like more talking about it. So we should stop right now.
No,
or we should
keep talking because like normally we're so negative about things on this show lately. Like let's be positive.
We're not negative about it. We just debate a little bit.
Yeah, but we are both.
Okay, I hate this movie now.
Let's go into spoiler
alert
section. So if you got
to do the spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Dude, we could get sued if you don't do that.
If you haven't seen the movie yet, then pause here. Come back after you've seen it. If you're a pussy and you have no plans to ever see this, like just listen to us talk and spoil it for you. It'll be fun.
I think they know the drill.
Yeah. I mean, also the book's been out for fucking 30 years.
Yeah.
Like you can, like, the story's not like unheard of.
Yeah, and I guess like the only thing, like, I mean, not like we're gonna go like into detail of it, but it's the movie starts with the main character's Bill, his younger brother Georgie, like using what is it, like a little paraffin wax boat, and he loses it in the sewer, and then he comes across Pennywise the dancing clown in the sewers, in a very famous scene where you've seen that scene of like the clown looking up from the sewer grate, and kills Georgie.
He munches on that fucking arm.
Yeah,
that was a great the part of that stood out to me was when the hand's stretching out, and it's like I love that. But it also shows, which we'll get into the themes and stuff later. But like when the old lady is looking at this, there's a storm, so she's dealing with shit on her porch. She sees this kid like looking into a sewer drain, and she doesn't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. Like I love how like this movie's about how adults are they're there to guide us into adulthood, but like we need to do it ourselves. Well, and they're not going to be there to stop us from getting eaten by sewer clowns.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think more so for me to feed off of that, literally, is that it's funny because we've talked about like we've gone back and forth on Elm Street about how like Elm Street is a lot of like the whole hysteria and paranoia of like kids trying to get their parents to believe something, and then like parents just being like, oh, you're just a kid, whatever. I felt that was very successfully done in this movie.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of on the nose ways of doing it, but like there's the scene in which Pennywise covers Beverly's whole like bathroom with like blood, and like the parents don't see it, and you're like, oh, you're just being weird.
I fucking love that.
Yeah,
we'll get it when we get into Beverly. We can. I mean, if you want, we can just do it now. But I love that it's attached to the fact that here's a 13-year-old girl who we established is about to get her period for the first time. Her only parent figure is a dad that clearly abuses her sexually and physically and in any other horrible way you can think of, and she's left dealing with this thing that every young woman has to go through, but she's alone. Her bathroom is covered in this metaphor of womanhood, right? It's this painted with blood, and her dad just doesn't see it. And she's there alone, except for her friends who can help her through it.
Right.
I loved it. Like, to me, that is like top notch what horror is supposed to be for my money.
Right.
So it's supposed to represent.
And I thought it really successfully did that theme that we were talking about. That maybe I was a little bit more critical in other older horror movies, but in this, I was like, oh, that's very effective. The whole the parents not necessarily seeing the children's side, which they do it in a couple different ways, because they have the abusive parent, but then they also have kind of the reasonable grieving parents. So the whole movie is Bill, who's the main character. He has a stutter.
And then they have they have the parents, the grieving parents. They have the parents who don't give a shit, or who
the
are
overbearing
abusive.
parents.
And then they have the overbearing parents in I have the characters list here. So
Eddie, right?
Eddie,
yeah, Eddie is the was it hypochondriac? Is that what they call it when you're afraid of sickness?
James.
But yeah, because even with Bill's parents, what's interesting about this movie is that Bill's whole deal is
Bill's
trying
the main kid, really.
Yeah, he's trying to find Georgie, because the way that they frame it in this movie is that all these kids go missing. Now, I don't want to speak for everybody watching this movie, but when I'm watching this movie, it's well, no, Georgie's dead. Georgie definitely is dead.
But even Bill knows that,
yeah.
right? He knows that that's a thing, but he's even saying his body could wash up. He wants closure.
Right.
That's his whole arc is about closure, which we get to in the end. You want to just go character by character?
Yeah. What I was going to say right with that, because this is, let's talk about Bill, since it's all the, but what I liked about that, though, was I didn't think the dad wasn't unreasonable about it. He's and you could tell that they had this conversation many times before. I mean, he wasn't being unreasonable, which I like, because it's dangerous. It would have been easy to make the dad very villainous in that moment,
right.
But the dad is this grieving
He's
dad.
Just being real.
Yeah.
And ideally, you want the parent to always be there for the kid, but you also have to realize the kid, the parents are going through their own shit too. I was telling you, I just watched A Monster Calls, right? And Felicity Jones plays a mom in that movie who's dying of cancer. And in that movie, she's very attentive of her kids, that her kid's dealing with this too. But at the same time, you're yeah, but she's also fucking dying, and so she's got this dual responsibility of coming to terms with it herself and having to be a fucking mom to someone who has to deal with this and isn't as emotionally capable of dealing with it in the same way as she is. I think that's what this movie did good with Bill's parents.
And, well, it also only works because I do think, for me at least personally, it is pretty much televised that Georgie is dead. So it's kind of more of getting closure on what happened, as opposed to, because it would be a mistake if it was about he may still be alive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then the parent would come off as an asshole in the meta narrative of it. But that whole thing I thought was very much well done. Bill I thought was good. I thought he was good.
Yeah, I mean,
Did the stutter
he's
well.
one of the few characters that has a full arc, right? And I think it was done successful. So it's his drive to find out what happened to his brother that is pulling all the kids along. And I think that the way it was structured was done really well. But at the end, it ends with him finding this version of his brother, his one-armed version of his brother down in its lair, and
which goes to show how effective the storytelling of the movie is, because even though I know that wasn't Georgie at the end of the movie, that was it pretending to be Georgie, there was that split second where I'm wait a minute, what if that was Georgie?
And I think it's
I was even though I knew it wasn't,
because they lingered on it for so long.
They do.
and it's really hard. I mean, it's hard to watch so Bill shoots Georgie in the head with this thing made for killing sheep. And
yeah, it's like
this,
the thing that hit
this
shoots
long
bolts.
drop back, and it's like watching this 4-year-old kid get murdered, really, and it's hard to watch even if you know it's fake. But then but I love it because it represents like Bill coming to terms like he's able to let his brother go now, and I'm all about that shit.
Yeah,
shower me in that fucking glory.
Speaking of shower, let's talk about blood showers, and we'll talk about Beverly,
right.
My personal favorite of all the losers in this movie.
She was great. She's dealing with not only the shit with her dad, which I think is not overdone. Like there's a way where it could be like super gratuitous, but it's not. It's hard to say that like a rapey dad's done in a classy way.
Yeah.
But like it's not like it's there, but it's not like shoving it in our face. It's not sexualizing it or anything.
Well, her whole thing was that. And maybe I also liked it because the one nitpick I will say about it is like at this point the whole 80s kids in like a town like Derry, Maine has been done a lot. So like, and it's the kind of like you can't really like get over this. I mean, it's just been done so much that by the time you kind of do it in it, you're supposed to do it in it. It's just like watching it as a movie. It doesn't feel as novel or whatever. Not to say it's bad. It's just like, that kind of stuff is just, that is what it is. But like, I think with Beverly, like when you see like her getting bullied,
I was about to say,
that was fascinating because you just don't get to see that much in movies like this.
The
like
bullying in general in this movie was fantastic. Like it was like really moving. In ways that immediately makes you feel for her, but her specifically, she was bullied in a different way from the other ones, right?
Yeah.
So her bullying was done more in like spreading rumors about her.
Yeah. See, I felt more,
and also they did dump trash water on her.
But
head.
see, like I kind of felt a little bit more for, and again, this is only me, but I felt more for like the bullying done to her, in which, like to me, like the bully Henry. Or whatever.
Henry Bowers.
Yeah, who like that is kind of like Stephen King, like Stephen King bully. Like it's very like over the top, like this guy's a psychopath thing, which again works in the movie, but just for me, I'm kind of like, okay, whatever. Like that's
right.
I mean, I also think like his character is like, I have a question about his character. I think he's the only character that maybe the movie didn't really know what to do with. Personally, but we'll get to him in a minute. But Beverly, yeah, I thought she was great. And there's also, this is the only time in the movie where they leave like a dangling plot thread, maybe, or maybe I'm just reading into
about
it.
What?
They like he said like the dad when she's in a struggle with her dad, he says something about her mom. About like, oh, do all those boys know that your mom was, and then he gets like cut off. Was that like, am I reading into that, or is that something from the book or is that like the only dangling thing that they may do in like another movie? He says something and then gets cut off.
He says, I thought he was referring to like what he does to her. I didn't hear mom.
Okay.
I heard,
maybe
like,
I misread the.
Do they know? Do I know how you're my girl? Like and stuff.
Okay.
Like, he's talking about that.
I could be wrong.
Which like I love how like you get to see her struggling with that without her like telling you about it, right? So like when she cuts her hair, it's her way of defending herself.
Oh yeah. Oh, I got that. Definitely.
Like, no, but like I love that. Like she's becoming a woman, but then she intentionally tries to make herself look like a boy to kind of keep her dad away. And then I also just loved how organic the friendship she formed with these boys.
Yeah, very organic.
I think overall the chemistry between all the kids was great.
Yeah,
like I loved it.
Yeah, the only thing I was kind of eye rolling at was, I mean, because you have to do it, but the whole like when they go out swimming and like the whole like the sun tanning joke, that was the only thing where I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, but I think the execution of that was done really well. Like they really lingered on all of the boys staring, and
yeah, I think it's fine, but. I get it.
No,
it's not done poorly. It's just kind of like for my personal taste.
I love the way all the kids interacted with each other. Like to me, it felt like I didn't grow up in the '80s, but it reminded me of being young, right? Like I remember hanging out with friends and stuff, and busting on each other.
Oh well,
getting into fucking adventures.
Well, that
are dangerous.
That segues into, because talking about the Bev and one of the other guys. So Finn Wolfhard was another one of my big favorites in this, who plays glasses kid, Richie. He has a great line in this that I think, like, you know, while I'm a little bit more okay about like the whole like they're staring at her sunbathing, one of the best lines to me in the movie was she's like I gotta show you guys something, and he's like, more than at the lake. And I was like, that's a funny joke. So Finn Wolfhard, besides having the best actor name ever, was also in Stranger Things, and definitely gets to do a lot more in this, where he is the comic relief character, but he's the character who I thought
on Stranger Things he's like the main character,
right? But in this movie, this movie started out where it's like, okay, they're really leaning on the fact that like, oh, like, you know, these like kids, like, you know, they curse and whatever and stuff. But what I loved about Finn Wolfhard, after, he's just so incessant on his like dick jokes and everything, that it's so childlike. And I was talking to somebody about this who thought he was a little bit much, and I think kind of why it works is because they're children. Like if they were like older, like, yeah, that may get old after a while, but it's like, yeah, when you're kids and you're like these asshole like boys.
I talked like that when I was 13.
At one point they're like, Derry was a beaver trap or something, and he's like, still is, am I right, boys?
It's great. No,
he was funny, he was really good, and I thought that he
kept talking about how big his dick was. It was so funny. Like, his timing was really good.
Yeah. And I thought eventually, like, what they end up, his through line with his character was very good. I thought.
I mean, with Richie specifically, it's pretty simple, right?
Did you find that they had the whole thing like he's afraid of clowns, but they don't really pay that off, really? I kind of felt like the only tacked on thing.
They didn't do it, but like I don't think it was super necessary, right? Because I don't need all of them to have very, you know,
distinct fears
or even arcs or like overcoming it. Like, so I only need a few. So you get it with Bill, and you get it with Bev, and then you get it like to a slight lesser degree with the sick kid. But that's really it. The other ones, you know, their fears and stuff, but it's not like, it's not super important. Like the was the kid, the only Jewish kid.
Yeah, I would say
Stanley.
Yeah.
But like the fact that like his fear was a simple fear of a picture in his dad's office.
Yeah.
Like that's okay for a character in the group. You know, it's a big group of kids.
Yeah.
So like I'm okay with the fact that it was like a simple thing that is like, of course a kid would be afraid of that fucking creepy ass picture.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't.
I liked all that stuff.
I don't need it to, because some fears you have to actually face, like the sick kid, you know, throwing away his fanny pack full of medicine. Like that's a thing. But then like other fears you just grow out of, and I think that is what I liked about it.
And the other kids. Who was the fat kid?
The fat kid is Ben.
Yeah.
Natalie's favorite character.
He's good.
She found him adorable. There's some really funny new kids on the block. Like like his relationship with Bev, I thought was great.
Yeah, I have thoughts about that though. That's probably my only criticism of the movie. But
I think it felt real to me.
No, not their relationship. It's more so the resolution of that.
Oh, you wanted Bev to?
I'll wait till the end because it's really my only kind of like true thing I didn't like about the movie.
His intro is so sweet.
Oh, absolutely. He's great.
I think using him as the character that gets all the information, does all the research. I think that the shit. It was a good scare in the library when he's being chased by the headless fucking kid.
Yeah.
And then just like, egg boy. And then, then the cloud just goes, like, I thought that was fucking great.
Yeah, no, that is good. No, he was good. He was definitely good.
Like with a character like him, we don't necessarily need to know any specific fear.
Well, the last one is, who was the black kid?
Mike.
Mike is probably the one who gets the most lost in the story.
And I think it kind of comes of the nature of the character that he's an outsider to begin with, and I think that's part of his arc. He's like, I was an outsider. I think the only part like that didn't track for me is when they were all coming back after they went their separate ways. We didn't really see, because he when they left, he's like, I was an outsider to begin with, but we never see what brings him back. Like we see it for some of the other characters, but we never get to see what motivates him to come back.
Isn't the implication that like everybody's just on board when Bev gets taken? Like, wasn't that?
Yeah, I guess. But we got to see it with other, like we got to see them giving Eddie the phone call and stuff, and him confronting his. I could have used one scene of him talking with his grandfather, who's on the beginning, and being like, I'm not in the pen.
I'm
Like,
shocked.
Just one scene.
I'm shocked that there wasn't a racial slur in this movie.
Yeah,
I was waiting for it the entire time because
right. Well, because it's heavily implied with the bullies.
Oh yeah,
fucking super racist. But also you gotta remember like the book set like when they're kids, it's set in the 50s,
mm-hmm.
which like I mean honestly you could set the fucking kid's story today and you would still have a fucking bully.
Oh yeah,
shouting N-words left.
Which
and
is
right.
funny in a movie where the opening scene is a kid gets murdered. And like you're dealing with all the horrible stuff, like where this kid is like cutting his name
into
yeah,
poor Ben's belly.
Yeah,
that kid Ben like got his belly gashed like every other scene.
You know what the only thing I will say about the bully thing, and I think it's more of just like a personal thing, is like that is just so hard for me to wrap my head around. Like characters like that, especially like when you establish that other kids in the group aren't as bad. Like, you know what I mean?
They weren't as bad, but they were clearly like followers.
Oh, right? No, they were followers, but it's like it's just a hard thing for me to wrap my head around.
I really love the scene when they're shooting, and then his dad comes out, takes the gun, and he just like fucking shoots into the ground around, and the kids. And what's the Bowers' his first name? Henry.
Yeah. Like
when he's just fucking cowers, and dad's like, see a paper man folds.
Yeah, when in front of fear or something like
that. Which one ties into what the theme of the movie is,
yeah.
but also like really shows where this character's like why he.
We're talking about him right now, and I'll say like his performance is good in the movie. Like he is good in the movie, but what I will say is like I did find myself that being the one plot thread that I'm like, oh, that seemed unnecessary.
Oh, I think it was necessary because it's part of like a natural fear of being a kid.
No, not that. The whole he's being manipulated by Pennywise. Like I only got confused.
I think that's from the book.
Okay, I only got confused about that because I just didn't see like what the purpose of that was. Because like he's sending out.
Well, I think the purpose of it is Pennywise is aware that these kids are going to come after him. And he's like, I don't want to. Like, why? I don't have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I already got this fucking tasty snack.
Don't get me wrong.
Got the Bev snack in my pocket.
The really creepy children's show that's chanting "Kill them all."
Yeah,
and like it's like, do it, Henry, kill him. And I'm like, that's amazing.
It was great.
Yeah, and again, it's not a big problem, but I did find like that I was unclear of what what Pennywise's plan was. So I'm partially with you. I'll buy that.
I think it was a self-defense thing. He set up like a sentry guard because it almost worked. Like he almost fucking killed Mike.
All right, I'll buy it. You're good. I got you.
Also,
shut up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you were gonna say something about Pennywise himself. Like I think earlier we were gonna talk about him, and I think in that we can talk about like the craft of the movie. So I mean, like all the kids are great. Like Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. So what I was gonna say is like, so there's a lot of him, like being a creepy clown standing around, which he's very good at. But I thought like scenes like so. The one scene that really turned me, I'm like, oh, he's great as Pennywise. Like this is the part, like probably the most I got quote unquote scared was when they go into the haunted house,
which was I think the best sequence in the movie when they go in for the first time.
I will say again, here's a nitpick. There was a bit where I did feel like the movie, and this is maybe my one kind of like little pacing issue, is like I did think that it was doing the thing where it's like, all right, let's do a scare for each of these kids before we can do the plot. And I think it was just after the third one, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like each of these kids is being haunted.
I mean, I get that, but I think if you look at it in terms of like it's part of the story, right? Because they even say when they go back, it's like we can't let them separate us. Which they don't really listen to, but that's whatever. But like you're talking about when he has Eddie. Yeah, that's great. When he has like all those lines,
and he like
first of all, Eddie's fucking jacked up arm. Fucking
so Eddie falls through a through like a floor into like the kitchen of the haunted house, and his like arm gets broken. But everything in that scene was like super, like the kid's afraid of clowns. Oh, they do pay that off. Never mind, I'm wrong. He walks into the room and it's filled with a bunch of clowns.
No, they pay it off. It's more just like they could have set it up a little bit better.
Yeah, I think it just felt tacked on that he's like, what are you afraid of? Clowns.
Yeah.
But there's also a really funny moment in that scene too where Pennywise sets up like 3 different doors and it says scary, very scary, not scary at all. And that's funny. But no, the scene where Pennywise comes out of the fridge and he's all like contorted up and like unfolds out of thing. And then Bill Skarsgård's doing kind of like this little dance, this jig, and then he gets down and like the lines he's saying. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, he's great.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm talking about. I like those moments when he got to actually perform a little bit rather than just be creepy. And I think there's a balance of it, but it was just I liked him so
even
much.
At the end when he has Bill and he's basically bartering, he's like, just let me have him and then I'll go to sleep.
He was like I will eat all of your flesh, or you can just let me have this boy. No, he was great. And I think it was just the only thing that took me aback, because I think I was a little bit spoiled by what I know about Tim Curry, because Tim Curry's Pennywise is like all performance. So I guess I was just a little taken aback that there wasn't just a little bit more. Again, nitpick, but I think it's more. All I'm saying is, like, I thought he was so great that I just wanted a little bit more.
What I liked, and I think I was saying this before, is I liked that he let a little bit of the monster slip out.
Yes.
While so there's the part where he's handing the boat back to Georgie. He's like, and the way he clicks his tongue when he's like, take it. Like it's just, like it's those small things that are just fucking phenomenal.
And great special effects work to kind of like contort his face at times when like things are getting
and
like,
one thing I was concerned going in is like I know that like in the book there's like, so Pennywise is there, but he's not always like, it's not like it's right, so it manifests in whatever you're afraid of. So it's like there's like a fucking werewolf in the book and stuff.
Well, he's a shapeshifter,
right?
And
I was a little bit concerned that they're gonna just overdo the clown stuff and not have the other fear thing. Like, are they just gonna have like a werewolf clown thing to make it like make sense? But like you got the germ guy.
Yeah, the leper. Yeah,
like they didn't shy away. Like they let other things be scary. You had the headless kid with the fucking Easter egg.
And also, I think that the shape shifting paid off in a really cool way with the third act
with Georgie.
Well, no, not just that. Just like the goings on in the third act. They had some fun with the shape shifting in the third.
But
act.
also like the scene where Georgie's fucking transforming into Pennywise after he gets.
Oh, that's great too. Like, ah! Well, also like the scene in the basement with actually one of my favorite goofs. This is actually funny. Because I follow a lot of like Lego like forums and everything, and they're like, "Oh, there's a mistake in the new It movie," and it was the scene where they have like he has like the Lego turtle and he drops, and somebody pointed out it's like, oh, the lime green curved pieces of Lego weren't invented at that time. And I'm like, that's kind of funny. Like they posted it knowing they were being silly.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of funny. It's like you never would have thought about that. But yeah, so he goes down into the basement and it's flooded, and Georgie is like, there's Pennywise is pretending to be Georgie and doing the whole like you'll float too. But it turns so like he's rotting as it's happening.
And then as he's doing that, Pennywise comes up out of the water like a fucking shark. And then like as soon as like Georgie, it's like as Georgie's fading away, Pennywise is appearing.
Yeah.
And then he does his fucking gobble walk across the water.
My favorite part of that scene.
His gobble walk.
My favorite part of that scene is he drops him like a puppet.
Yeah.
Like I thought that they really.
But his like sideways, I'm gonna trademark gobble walk. Like I fucking love when he just goes.
Yeah,
and he charges
let's talk about like the scares in this movie. Like one of the, this is the number one thing I want to tell you. This movie did the number one thing that I thought it nailed, and I wished more horror movies would do. Use of the background. I think we've talked about this. Like I want to see more movies do this, where it's like again, their pure jump scares are kept to a minimum, but there's some great atmospheric like craft in this where there's things going on in the background that aren't the focus of the scene.
Like with the TV stuff.
The TV stuff. Like you go into the and there'd be scenes where like Bev walks into her house, and the TV is like not anywhere the focus of the frame.
It's not even in the frame, but you can hear it.
You can hear like it's like kids, it's fun to play in the sewers, like things like that.
Or even like when Stanley's in his dad's office with the creepy picture.
Yeah.
And you see the thing in the background.
Yes.
No, first you hear it playing the flute.
Love it.
Which is fucking creepy as hell.
But one of my other favorite ones was the library. Yeah. So like he starts looking through the book, and as he's looking through the book, if you look in the background, you see the librarian just like like hunched over staring at him,
Yeah.
and she gets like closer with every like cut. It's like love it. Like that's scary to me. Like I love that kind of stuff.
But then even what was it? Oh, you mentioned jump scares. You know, I'm not a big fan of jump scares. I'm not a big fan of cheap jump scares, but I think this movie did jump scares really well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it didn't like the shit when he's in the clown room. Like it's really easy to do that jump scare wrong. Like when Pennywise jumps down, like you can either he opens up the casket and the kid sees himself in the casket, and in the lesser movie would like have like Pennywise like jump out from behind it, or it's just the way you craft that scene. But they had Pennywise jump down on top of the thing and then do his gobble walk after him.
I think every jump scare in this is at least a second televised. Like it's a little bit like you kind of know something's coming. I think
what I appreciated is it just wasn't obnoxious.
Yeah. I think for me, jump scares, like I don't mind if it's like somewhat televised like a second before, because it gets obnoxious when it's just like, ugh, like, you know what I mean?
When it's just
then
loud
it's like,
noises
yeah.
and when they're just turning and bumping into a friend. I fucking hate that. And that wasn't in this movie.
And so there was like a lot of so like the Pennywise stuff, the atmosphere stuff, I thought was really good.
I liked the children's relationship with adults and other children.
Yeah, the parents were good, and all the adults were good. I did think like one of the most eerie things in this was, so I didn't know how they were going to play. I didn't know there was going to be a payoff to the "You'll Float Too." I just thought it was a creepy phrase.
No, but they're really floating though.
Yeah, it's like, so throughout the whole movie, you know, he's always like, Pennywise always has balloons and shit, but his whole like thing is like, he always tells people, it's like, oh, join us and you'll float too. Yeah, like things like that. Everybody's been posting it on all their social media with a balloon. So what they find out is at the end, Beverly gets kidnapped and Pennywise is about to eat her, but
she gets penny napped.
Yeah, but you won't. Like, you find out that really what Pennywise is after is like children's fear, and he wants kids to be afraid of them before he eats them because fear tastes good, fear tastes yummy.
Yum, 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 yum.
So he takes her down to his little lair, and which is like, it kind of looks like the Nightmare Before Christmas, like a mountain just full of like children's toys and everything, and doesn't eat her because she's not afraid, but then you look up, there's a pan up, and it's all the missing kids or all the people he's killed or whatever, and their bodies are just floating in a circle. And that was the one I was like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? And then it's like, they floated too.
They floated too.
They floated too. So I did like that. But moving on into the third act was the stuff I'm like, oh, this is just fun, because it's like then all the kids gang up on Pennywise and they have fun with the shape shifting, just enough that they don't overdo it, like in a very Stephen King-y way, where it's like at one point like Pennywise like has praying mantis arms and like it's cool.
I think that's a throwback because he does turn into the spider thing.
Right.
What's the spider things when they're adults? I can't fucking remember.
Well, that's his true form is
No, but I thought someone was afraid of spiders.
Yeah. Well, no, in the adult portion of the book, even in the novel itself, his default his true form is a giant spider.
Yeah. Spider thing.
Yeah. Are we really gonna? This is where we're gonna split hairs.
That's one thing in the movie, like, you know, like the movie really didn't tell us where he came from, but it wasn't important because I think I was reading that they cut out a scene where they all like the kids smoke peyote or something, and they get like an origin story that was going to be animated.
Well, because this is where I'm going to read the novel, because the origin of Pennywise is like he's like a cosmic Lovecraftian alien from the Macroverse that feeds off of fear, and his enemy is a turtle that created the universe. And like in the novel, like the kids talk to the turtle to find out how to beat Pennywise. It's bonkers. In this one, he's just kind of like a spirit or whatever. Or they don't really go into it.
I like it better that the kids figure out how to do it themselves.
Yeah, and the movie also is more about like that stuff that they could easily do in the sequel. Like, this is a
Yeah.
coming of age story, so it's got to focus more on that. I completely agree. But bottom line is, like, I did like the third act, and like every time like Pennywise got to like turn to another kid, he would turn into that thing that they feared. So when he like turned to the Jewish kid, like his head turned into the painting, and then he would like turn around, go after somebody else with his praying mantis arms. I'm like, this is fun. Like, I'm having such a blast with this. And then it ends with, it's like, oh, we're not afraid of you anymore. So he I guess goes back into a slumber.
Yeah, and he says, well, my only nitpicks of the movie really is his last line is just fear.
Yeah.
And then he just falls.
I was a little deflated by that.
I don't even understand what he.
Yeah.
Why did he say that?
Because you were expecting like him to say something, but I didn't think it was just gonna be.
Yeah. Or so I'll float again. Something. I don't know. I don't fucking know. But I just don't know why he said that.
Yeah.
Even if he said, "Oopsie daisy," and he fell.
That scene's a lot of fun though. Like, that's when I was like,
Oh yeah.
And then that's kind of what it gets down to. It's like, it's so satisfying because at the end, then you get to see these kids.
Well, that was
in,
like
like,
Richie's
this-
arc ended up being about like sticking with friends. You know, spent the whole movie busting on his friends, but when they really need him, he's there for them.
Anything else to say before I have a comment about the ending?
No. Go for it, man.
I think what was very fascinating about this movie is that it very tastefully owns that it's a chapter 1.
Yeah.
Because I knew that there was going to be a sequel, but it toes the line very well of like, it is its own complete story.
Absolutely.
But also it also ends in a way it's like, oh, we'll be back. Like, we're going to do another one.
But in that scene when they're all making the blood oath or whatever, like
Yeah.
I feel like a lesser movie would make that feel a lot more cliffhangery.
Yeah, exactly.
But this movie felt like it was the story completed, and they're like, if this thing comes back, we have to promise that we'll be here to stop it.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, maybe because I went in knowing there's going to be a sequel, but I almost kind of found it in a way where it's like, I would almost expect the sequel too.
Yeah.
Like, it very carefully toes that line of being its own complete story, but also acknowledging it's like there's going to be more after this. And I was very impressed with doing it. And also there's a little bit, as I'm a fan of like the whole, big shared universe thing and like the continuity and stuff like that. I thought I think it's kind of cool that we get this little mini franchise that, this is chapter 1 and we get to continue it on with, recasting the actors and like the older. I just think that's kind of cool that we get to do that with this movie.
It is pretty cool.
And they're definitely going to do it with.
I think
this
it's already in
movie
production. I heard 2019. That's
Yeah.
what I just heard.
I can't wait. Actually, I think I may like this movie more talking about it.
Me too.
Yeah. And that's what I think, going back to it, like when they're all doing the oath, the blood oath, about them becoming friends, like that's when I was like,
The height of the AIDS epidemic.
which they mentioned
Yeah.
earlier in the
Well,
movie.
the germaphobe is like talking about AIDS.
Wait, can
the dialogue, but the banter between the kids was fucking great.
Can I mention, I think it would be, this was the one thing I was going to say about Bev. So in the novel, there's a very controversial orgy scene in which after they defeat Pennywise, they're stuck in the, I just found about this past week. They get stuck in the sewers, and in order to get out, they have to be one with each other, or they have to like form unity. And to do that, Bev suggests her having sex with each one of the children, one of the boys. And here's the thing. I went into the movie knowing that wasn't in it, because everybody talked about like how that's not going to be in the movie. In fact, like I found out that part of the reason Cary Fukunaga left was because that was in his original draft. And like the studio was like, no.
Yeah.
What?
You can't.
Absolutely not.
You can't.
So, but that being said, the movie leans so hard on the rumors of Bev being like sleeping with everybody, like that. I was kind of like, I know it's not in the movie, but I could. But there was a minute where I'm like, but I could see that being a narrative payoff to this, like in a weird, morbid way.
Right, like in the narrative sense, like in the original thing, it has a lot to do with like these kids are coming of age now, so like it's their step into adulthood. But I think it was a good decision to not.
I mean, listen, it's just you just can't do it.
Yeah,
you can't have like these kids who are supposed to be like 15 and under. Like
also you left out a bunch of the cosmic stuff, so there's nothing keeping them there.
Yeah, if you're not gonna put in the cosmic stuff, like that'd be funny if Fukunaga was like, all right, fuck the spider, but we got to have the kids fucking each other. Like you can't, like, for the kids, like the actors, you can't have them do it.
And
You
from-
can't put it
from
on
what I
screen.
heard,
You cannot.
The
no.
original script had a bunch of other changes, so like why keep it that but change
Yeah.
other things?
I don't know. So, and even like Stephen King has gone back and said, like, I don't think I would have written that in if I made that book today. But anyway, so that was a so I like that, and I liked all the kids coming together at the end. The only thing I really didn't like was the final beat between Bev and Ben. I thought that was unnecessary for me, only because that was the only thing I didn't feel like it was like paid off from anything. Like I was fine with it, just like, oh, like they're all like they're friends now and they're all gonna go their separate ways, and
They're
leaving it a little bit
a
open.
13-year-old, they like each other.
Yeah,
Come on.
but I think my problem with it was like I don't even think the rest of the movie handles that to be paid off in a way. And I'm not saying like, even though I kind of want to see her end up with the fat kid, like that would have been nice to see. But that's why I thought that the movie moved on from those kind of frivolous things to be like, all right, we're like friends based off this bigger thing. And I that was the only thing to me that felt really like tacked on at the end. Like
Yeah.
I thought it would have been just as powerful to be like, they're all friends. It's like, oh, we'll see each other again, and then they go off, and then the movie ends.
And it could be one of those things like when you see the sequel, maybe it plays off in a way that
Maybe, yeah.
changes your mind about it. Who knows?
Yeah, but again, I think that I will acknowledge that in this movie, that even if I had like a bunch of nitpicks about like some of the pacing and the structure at certain points, I think that was the only thing I'm like, I didn't love that part of it.
That's fair enough. And like I said, my only real nitpick was I think that Mike needed an extra beat to show us why he went back.
Yeah, I think if I had it perfect, I think maybe get to the house a little bit sooner.
I like the kind of leisure pace of the movie.
Okay.
I that worked for me. It doesn't work in every movie. I liked it.
I think it was
we also didn't really
one
talk,
more scene. I think it was one leisure scene too many. That's all I'll say.
and that's fair.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have a different reaction. We didn't really talk about like the town itself and how it looked, and I think that was like, to me, it felt like a real town. It felt like the period felt right.
It's kind of cool seeing that Batman Returns was playing at one point.
Well, no, just Batman.
Oh, it was Batman.
It was-
Yeah.
1980.
Oh, and then it was Batman and Lethal Weapon 2 were playing.
And then when it jumped to
man.
like September, it was something else.
It was later on in the movie, it was Nightmare on Elm Street 5
Yeah.
was
That's-
playing. We've talked about this before. Like, the Pennywise rules don't really make any sense. Like,
Well, he's an extra dimensional
yeah,
creature.
but it's
so-
just funny because again, like you have to do this in every movie, but like they kind of like open a door and then he's gone. I'm like, I don't know if that would stop him, but whatever, I don't care. Oh, did you like the slideshow scene?
Yeah.
I thought that almost could have been a bad jump scare, but I think because it was so fun.
When he's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think because it was so goofy and fun, I was like to me that read like the weird Stephen King stuff that I know about tangentially. Like
Right.
it's just like him
But
being like a giant
I
clown.
like the idea that it's like, see, this is where I think the rules, which aren't really stated in any way, actually like are working really well, because it's like, it's not the fact that the kid opened up the garage door and the light made Pennywise disappear. It's the fact that when you're a kid, the darkness is scary, and then once you let in some light, things get less scary.
Sure.
So, and I think that's what was represented there. And I like
Yeah,
that
sure.
s-
I
that
think
sort of
I still think it's a little bit like, it is what it is. Like, they have to end the scene somehow. I mean, I don't think it's breaking. It's just one of those things like when I think about it, I'm like, they could really just do anything, I think, but I don't really care. But yeah, that scene was fun when he's just like a giant just crawling out of the screen. Oh my god, so much fun. I'm trying to think of anything else. Yeah, again, like now I'm thinking about it, I had a few nitpicks where it's like, I think maybe they could have got to the house. Maybe it's just one. I think it was just because it's like each scene was like, this kid is haunted. Now this kid is haunted. Now they did it 4 times. Maybe I'm just saying 3. Again, small thing.
Yeah.
And the only thing I didn't like was the little romantic tag. That was the only thing I liked. Just like, they could have done without that. The bully thing makes a little bit more sense to me. This guy's previous movie was Mama, which is...
Yeah, well, he did Mama twice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
He did because he did Mama in whatever language he's from.
Mm-hmm.
You're not from a language, of whatever land he's from. And
Which
then
is
he
like-
remade it for the American audiences. And
That's
now-
an interesting movie, I think. Have you seen it?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not terrible. Like,
Yeah.
I found it not as compelling as I wanted it to be, and I think part of it is I think we saw Mama a little too much.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say, does this make sense? Like, Mama felt like a movie that really felt like a vision put behind it in terms of like the story. Like, it was thought out in terms of like, oh, this is interesting with the ghost, and it's like this sympathetic mother character who just wants a loved one. And I thought like, and even though the movie was just ultimately okay, it was just kind of like that's the type of movie you look at and you're like, let's give this guy another movie.
I understand why they gave him this movie
Yes.
because it involved
Yeah.
kids and stuff. Yeah,
Well, as far as I'm concerned, he nailed it
yeah.
in this movie. And you know what? And I think I like it a little bit more talking about it. But even though I wasn't as blown away with it as everybody else
Like
was,
those kids whose head blew off when they were hunting Easter eggs.
but even though I wasn't as blown away with it like everybody else, I did. The number one thing I thought was when the credits started rolling was I cannot wait for chapter 2.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to
Do
see
you have
how
any
it is.
fan casting of the adult?
No, I don't. Except like somebody did tweet out it's like all right, a knife fight between Amy Adams and Jessica Chastain over the role of Bev, and I'm like, I'd be fine for either of those people.
Yeah.
But it is like, do you have any theories of
Fish.
what they will do with that? Would actually not be bad. Oh, you know who wouldn't be bad is did you see Oculus
Mm-hmm.
with Karen Gillan in
Yeah.
that? Like she could do well in that.
Which the guy who did that is directing another Stephen King movie, Gerald's Game.
Oh
on
yeah, the Netflix one.
this month.
But a lot of people have been thinking like, what are they going to do with the second one? Because the thing about the series and everything is like everybody talks about how the adult portion is kind of like boring.
Mhm.
Nobody really likes that part as much. So I wonder if that's the one they're going to take the most liberties with.
Probably, and I think there's room for it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they do.
Do you think like there's a little bit more room in that one to kind of get a little bit weirder with the Pennywise stuff?
Yeah, probably. I mean, you also think about it. Like, I think it's a fun challenge to think of like the things that scare adults are different from the things that scare kids.
Yeah.
and I think that's
Well, because I think that
exciting.
with the kids, like, I think that's why it's good because I don't want to kind of see them do the same thing. So I'm a little bit for them going like the weird cosmic stuff because I think that with kids, the coming of age stuff and like the fear things play a little bit more in the vein of this movie. Whereas I think you could play with the cosmic stuff in the next movie because that's like, oh, your whole world is being, your whole like concept of like reality is
right.
being
But I think the thing
twisted
with
upside
the,
down.
with the adult stuff is also like they're going to be fighting to keep themselves from becoming the adults that really weren't there to help them when they needed it too.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of interesting paths that they
Mm.
can take. for
It's also
sure.
you got to do something different because there is a little bit of like Pennywise the clown won't look as intimidating to an adult,
Yeah.
like just visually on screen.
yeah.
Like when it's like with the kids, it's like, oh, it's a threat, and not to say it isn't a threat within the movie, but just visually watching it.
pop some spider legs on that bitch and we'll be fine.
Dude, when I know I brought it up, but when the praying mantis arms came out, I'm like, what is going? Oh no, wasn't there like a scene where they hit him? They try to hit him with a rod, and then a bunch of arms like come out of
Yeah.
Pennywise's mouth and start grabbing at him like that.
It's great.
Love it.
Also, hashtag gobble walk. I'm all about that
he
gobble.
always does. He's like, "Ah!"
I love it.
Yeah, Bill Skarsgård's great. There was a minute he said he wasn't sure if he was going to come back, but I'm glad he is coming back for
I hope-
2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, this was like I apparently like a month ago. He's like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm coming back, but I bet
That could be like some like contract negotiation.
probably. So it. Rob, Blu-ray or nay on it?
Go and give this a hard Blu-ray, man.
The hardest Blu-ray.
The hardest Blu-ray you
Mm.
can possibly Blu-ray.
The
Oh,
hard Blu-ray.
All right.
Yeah, I'll give it a Blu-ray. Super solid. It's like it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. I'm glad.
I'm happy
glad
it's making a shit ton of money.
Oh yeah, it is pretty awesome that a movie like this can make that money.
100 million
Yeah.
in a weekend.
Sure.
All right, so you heard it here
Yeah, you heard it here first.
folks.
And until next time, we float too.
If you'll come with me, too.